Ladies and gentlemen, am I excited for this one? It is the FIDE World Blitz, rounds 1 through 12, day 1 of 2, all action-packed, so much going on, hundreds of games at a time, chaos everywhere, no messing about, no time wasting, similar to a Blitz game itself. Let's just get straight in. Okay, first game I have for you is International Master Elect Maxim Saruk versus man who needs certainly no introduction, Magnus Carlsen, the world rapid champion now, once again. And already we need to pause and take stock, because what the hell is this? A6, the guy doesn't care. This isn't even the first round, this is like round 3. King's Pawn opening, St. George defense. I didn't even know it was called that. Because what do you even do in this situation, as presumably Saruk is a young talent. I don't know how old he is, but we get fairly normal stuff thus far. Pieces come off. Saruk's position looks pretty good. I would certainly prefer white here. No bishops to exploit this this g6 induction. You know, the rooks can just come along and pepper the queen about. And shortly we see that. Queen d8, f5. Magnus goes queen b6. Me see pawn, me take pawn. You know, typical caveman fashion. Easy. Now, I mean, already to have a winning position against Magnus after 20 moves is just, well, it's just terrifying. What do you even do? Rook h4 is what the position demands. Presumably the idea being queen h3, and then say you try and go h5, you just weaken yourself because fg6, take. And then this pawn hangs at the end of the sequence and your king safety crumbles, you just kiss goodbye to the game. Saruk tries to put a little bit, you know, a little bit of seasoning, a little bit of flair on it. He goes rook h7. I'll give the guys due. Nice idea. King takes. Queen h3, which was the whole point. King g8. And fg6. Now, if you take back, because you want to prevent the mate, queen e6, and there is actually a draw here, so you can't do that. You were to have played f6 at the start, say, you can actually go queen d4, h1, and believe it's, yeah, queen d2. So you cover the entry square, and there's no longer any threats. You just up so much material, you're up a rook. Happy days. Same idea with the knight. You could also jump over here, assuming no exchange sacks or anything silly like that. From here, you have to go queen d4 first. King h1. Now you can do this. Because after queen e6, which we do see, king g7, queen d7 here. King is just being hunted down. You would think you're so close to just wrapping a rook around. Or maybe there's some kind of repetition here. There isn't. Queen h3, king g5. Just look at the sheer courage and bravery to just walk forward, lead this charge. And Saruk tries. Lord knows he tries. You just run out of checks. Rook comes in. The reason why this is over is Queen F4. And you just get a winning endgame. So, let's head over to the women's side. We have Valentina Gunina versus Gunai Mamadzada. Fairly standard stuff out of the opening. I'm going to blitz through all these moves. But then get to this sort of point where Gunina has a bit of an advantage. You see, already the position was favourable, but it's blitz. It's hardly worth analysing. Knight d7. The queen is just getting just squeezed, compressed. Get out to f4, but it doesn't serve a purpose. There is the problem. Now the rooks are just coming to beam in. This is the ideal structure you want. All these squares free. You can just bring material and attack the king. Doesn't get much simpler than that. Bishop f8, preemptively covering the g7 square so that you can't get mated. h3. Knight comes in to try and provide extra cover. Last thing you want to do is have all your pieces stranded over on this side of the board. You need to come and protect the king. Rook e1, knight d7. Again, a kind of wrong step, but maybe e5 was on the way anyway. Bishop c1, queen has to go back, and this is the exact nightmare scenario that I've described. Pieces in this half of the board, you have two, one of which is your king. In this half, you've got 22 points of material. That's not right. 10, 19, 20, no, yeah, 22. Knights aren't worth 2. 22 points of material. Just sat there. Smoke break. Doing sweet dick all. Queen f3. Inaccurate, but we play on. Bishop g5. Pawn comes out. Don't think about taking, because the knight does actually serve a bit of a purpose now. We back up with the rook. Rook moves. Queen e8. Knight jumps in. Mamadzada takes. And loses the game in a single move. I suppose the instructive part of this is all wins are created equally. This win gets you the same amount of points as a 100 move masterclass does. Win is a win, to put it in short. And the other instructive lesson here would be, if you have just one piece guarding a very fragile pawn, don't move it. Queen g7, and I'm recording this as we're about 7 rounds deep. As far as I'm aware, Gunina has won every game. She is just unstoppable right now. So, we go now back to the open section. Hans Niemann versus Anish Giri. Anish Giri has a lot more at stake than most. If he wins the entire event, he qualifies for the candidates, overtaking Gukesh in the FIDE circuit. Hans is here to just spoil the fun. So, I'm going to blitz through a lot of these moves again. Nothing exciting of note. But we do get a lot of piece trades. You'll notice a little bit of a tactical skirmish here, which all needs to be calculated just at the click of a finger. But Giri playing quite solid in typical Giri fashion. He's a tough man to beat. Pieces fly off. Rook b3. And this is the endgame we're dealing with. Hans has 4 seconds on the clock, Giri has 11. You know, chaos already. Pure increment. May as well be a bullet game by this point. But all to play for because Giri is up a pawn. Knight takes a6 is too much from Hans Niemann. That's just... I mean, okay, the idea is simple. Take back. Then you actually got a pretty good position. You yourself are the one up a pawn. Because you can't really defend a6. And you can't hit a5 quick enough to defend a6. That's simple. No issue with that. But what happen after knight d4? You know, you can't take because you're pinned. So go king e4 perhaps to hit the knight. Then you go knight e6. Now the rook is hanging. And that's it, it's done, it's over. As you can maybe tell by my tone, we don't get that. Here he goes rook a3. Hans backs up. And now Giri takes his pawn. This is still quite a pragmatic approach. If you consider the time implications, that's quite a tough little motif to see with such little time. You give that to him in a classical game or even just give him a minute on the clock, I'm sure he finds it. But prudent approach. Still up this one pawn, and that one pawn will be key to victory. Can Anish break through? Utilising the pin yet again. Looking for a rook trade, we don't get one. Check. And this is an ideal scenario. This king is getting mullered. No movement whatsoever. Suffocated and squeezed. Rook, same treatment. And not getting through. Tries to break out with the pawns. We get a trade. This exchange, necessary, but only helps Giri because the king just marches forward. Ladies and gentlemen, just look at this. Knight e3. King hits the rook. Isn't blundered. And it's just looking for tricks now at this point, but you can trade into this. There's one pawn. No. 2 pawns is enough to win this endgame. And a nice fork at the end. Got a trade. This is completely winning. Good showing from Giri. He has found himself somewhere around the top rope. Don't think he has lost a game yet either. Couple draws as you would expect. Now we go to a very interesting matchup. Current round just yesterday, Rapid champion Anastasia Bodnaruk versus the Blitz champion of the year before and the year before that, looking to do a three-peat, Sara Asalbayeva. So, Sara plays the Sicilian, clearly looking to win games, no messing around. We get this kind of weird bind to begin with. The knight just kind of isolated here. Granted, it can reroute to b2, but then where does it go? A lot of white's position is going to bank on this d4 push. But even then, black isn't obligated to take. You can either push forward again and this bishop becomes a monster, or you can take. It's going to be a battle for this open file. Knight e8, rook b1, e5, f4, knight c7. The position is even, but still gets a bit strange after f6. We line up a cannon strike to try and get rid of this bishop. The future g4 now, just locking everything up. And this is an interesting trade because Neither of these pieces are particularly good. This bishop stares into a bottomless void of nothing, and this knight just has no real scope. So both pieces come off. It's not clear who benefits from that trade, but the computer likes white. Look at this. H4. All these pieces armed and equipped to try and attack this king. All you need is to send the foot soldiers in. King takes a4. G5 now. King h8. Bishop h3. Gf5. Not the right way to go. A piece sinks in. Bishop now. This pawn is going to be under fire forever. Knight c7, queen e2, queen e8. King h2 from white. Understandable. You want the g file open. I mean, there's just so much tension right now. Can Bibi Sara stabilize this position? G6 now. Just not stopping at all. Here. Here there's a nice win. Queen h7. All kinds of pressure mounting up here. So you go here. That's an easy one. Do you puzzle rush? How do you defend the bishop? Well, the answer is you can't. You simply can't. But Bodnaruk doesn't have a lot of time. Instead, goes gh7. Needed to keep the tension just one move longer. Now, Asabayeva, even though she can't put anything on g8 right now, has a chance of clawing back in. Rook b7, best move. Rook g1, rook g7 wrapping around. Queen dodges out the way. You don't really want to make this trade, because then you get yourself back in the same position again of needing to bring a rook up. Rook g7 now. Bishop g7. Rook g1. You've got to do your best to create counterplay over here. You need a passed pawn. Queen can maybe come and help. Queen g4, bishop h6, bishop e6. You can take here. Queen f5 is just mate. The long sequence, you got to find rook g6. You can't do that. Rook g6, rook f7, rook takes h6. And here it's nice and simple. This wasn't the quickest path to mate, I think. Queen f6 was, which is nice. It's very nice. From here, there's rook h8. But it's done all the same. From here, rook e8, e8, here, done. Anastasia Bodnaruk is fighting fit on the ecstasy of winning the rapid. She wants more, clearly, and she is in contention. She's doing well. And beating Asabayeva in Blitz is no easy feat. That brings us to our final game. Another man who had a less than favourable rapid event, but he's certainly doing well in the Blitz. Jan Nepomniachtchi, who faces Denis Lazovic. So, ready? We get Nepo special, we get the King's Gambit, the Fisher defense, as it is known, and Nepo does what the King's Gambit was ever created for. You have this h4 move to prevent g5, and you just take center space, and you're going to win back the pawn. In principle, the King's Gambit is incredible. It's a great opening to use, but it just doesn't quite hold that edge at the top level in classical. In Blitz, excellent choice. Bishop g4, queen d3, bishop e7, bishop d2, a6 from Lazovic. slightly inaccurate. Sort of sows the seed for slight advantage to arise for Nepo. He also castles long. He could quite easily castle short. As good a move as any. But he stays brave. But here, bishop a6 does work. You take, king a6, king b8, and what does the computer want? Bishop a5, or you can go bishop e1, the idea being you need to free up rook d3. A5, queen a5, c6. Here you can go rook d3. Leave the knight completely hanging, rook b3. It's a very long line, but this is checkmate. Regardless. Nepo goes knight f4 instead, winning a pawn. A little bit cautious of that tactic there. Doesn't want to burn all his time calculating something that may well not work. e5, knight jumps in, trades with the bishop because he doesn't want to lose his rook, and lines up with Lazovic's. Again, optically speaking, I mean, Lazovic needs to play f5 at some moment, you would think. This structure's pretty nice. It's pretty damn good. h5, queen e3, queen d6. We just get a little bit of shuffling. Nepo tries to start to launch an attack. Lazovic fighting on the complete other side of the board. King a2, queen g3, queen c3, only move. Bishop d6 now, only move. And Nepo plays bishop a6 now, which just doesn't work. Computer actually wants rook h5. The idea being that if you take back, there is a glorious mate with a rook b7. Come back here. Oh, I was thinking it was bishop a6. It's not. Queen e8. You've got to bring this one back. Now you can go bishop a6. Sack everything. Whichever way you go, you're getting mated. I mean, just look at this, by the way. Down 10 points of material. Opponent's got 2 rooks and a bishop on you. But you're fighting a crocodile in a photo booth. It's the most important piece for a reason. You can't sit there in a little 3x3, Billy shelling it, trying to weave your way out, and you've got all your minions just sat gorming at nothing. You get bishop a6, takes back. Queen c6 being the idea. All kinds of pressure building up. What happens after rook b8 though? Can't take here. Rook b8, king takes back. And the rook comes in. Again, all looks good. But we can just repeat the same thing we had before. This time with fewer pieces. You can even, just bring the rook back. If you slide across, you've got exactly the same thing again. It doesn't work. So, instead of that, we get queen f2. Now rook d3 comes with some venom. White has time on his hands. Before, he got to this rook b8 at the end of the sequence, that would have been the only move. Now, Black has to find bishop b4. Let's say you come here, you hang a queen. So what do? You go queen e8, you go king a7, you can go queen takes f7, there's pressure here, the rook is hit. And In the end, you lead some long, stupid drawing line. You can't take this rook because of queen d3, and you're obviously down a piece there. It gets complicated, but it's a draw. Lasz, understandably, with 4 seconds on the clock, goes queen c5, looking for a queen trade. Rook b3. And you can't move. I don't know if his idea was to come here, but queen e8 is mate. Here, queen b7 is mate. Instead, we see queen b4. Nepo takes. Of course, the evaluation bar is going to say +8. I mean, it's a queen versus a rook and a bishop. You would play this against top-level computer and give yourself all the time in the world. I'm sure you'd win it, because it's quite straightforward. Just gobble up all the pawns. Happy days. With 6 seconds on the clock, this isn't so straightforward. Queen e8, take this pawn. Bishop's hit. Doubles a pawn there. Reduce black's chances of counterplay. g3, queen e5. Nepo just executes with blissful precision. And I don't know about this rook f5 move. I don't know if that's an error, an error with the board or what that is, but it certainly isn't a stalemate trick, so I don't know what it is. But Lasz resigns, loses on time, whatever it may be. There you have it. So, I can update you on the current standings. See, these aren't concrete, but these are as we go through 8 rounds. Yeah, 8 rounds. So, it's pretty interesting thus far. Vladislav Artemiev is in clear first, and the guy is just a blitz specialist. He's unreal at it. Won all his first 6 rounds, made a draw against Magnus despite being very low on time, and has just made a draw against Daniil Dubov, who also undefeated. We have a pack of players on 6.5. Also, we have Anish Giri undefeated, Magnus Carlsen undefeated. Some draws there at the end. I mean, this is shaping up to be just as good as the Rapid. If we head over to the women's side, also through 8 rounds, Valentina Gunina. I mean, the only one in the sort of upper echelons of the board undefeated, and presumably the only one full stop. 7 wins in a row, and then a round 8 draw against none other than Harika Dronavalli. I mean, that's nothing to be laughed at all, is it? 7.5 points out of 8 is incredible. And look who's in number 2 spot. The Rapid champion Anastasia Bodnaruk. All decisive games, 1 second round loss, but won all the rest of them. And there's, in the Open, I think, 21 rounds or something ridiculous. If you keep winning games, one little loss here isn't going to mean a thing. So, I will be back tomorrow. I will catch up on how rounds 9 through 12 have gone in the Open, and there's one more round today for the women's side. And of course, I'll cover all the rest of it and give you all the lowdown. The tournament is completed, but thank you all for watching, guys. Join me tomorrow as we wrap this one up.